You go on to almost any planet and you'll find a church of some sort. This one's called the Church of Bish, and that one's called the Church of Tish, and that one's called the Church of Ugg, and another one's the Church of Bug. It doesn't matter. They're all bowing down to the great blank. The great blank is a dead. The church actually will educate people into being sinners in this way against yourself, but make yourself more controllable for us. You'll be a good boy, you're going to get along, because we're going to let you get along, particularly if you pay us 5 slugs of gold, 2 talents, 1 jug of wine, a couple of spare bolts, anything that's legal tender, anything. You'll find this situation going forward. Now, you understand that I'm not telling you anything about no creator. If anybody can make anything like this out of it, he's a genius. What they're telling you is that the God you should worship is a control mechanism, the like of which you never heard of. But God, by definition, would be self-determinism. That's interesting, isn't it? I wonder what these people are all worshiping. Can't be God. That's an interesting fact. There must be a conflict there someplace. It must pay people to control people. Now, if you don't think that religion is a control basis and doesn't operate just in one direction, you should look at some of the implants on the track. When you speak of the Creator, you're probably speaking of something entirely different than implanted religion. Religion is always different than truth. It has to be, because the only way you can control a people is to lie to them. Now, you could write that down in a book, very big letters. The only way you can control anybody is to lie to them. Lie to them. All right. Now look, when you find an individual is lying to you, you know that the individual is trying to control you. Put that down. One way or the other, this individual is trying to control you. That's a mechanism of control. The individual's lying to you, so they're trying to control you. Because they give you enough misinformation, they'll throw you far enough down the tone scale so they can't control you. Conversely, if you see an impulse on the part of a human being to control you, you know very well that that human being is lying to you. Not is just going to, is lying to you. Check up the facts. You'll find out they're always true. You will find that command has this very often as its greatest weakness. It'll try to control instead of lead. And the next thing you know, it's lying to the crew, lie. It gets worse and worse, and all of a sudden the thing blows up. Well, religion has done this. Organized religion tries to control, so therefore it must be lying, and therefore it must know it's lying. After a while it figures out that even itself knows it's lying. And then it starts on down tone scale and gets further and further and further, and people all of a sudden get down across this spring bottom. And are we going into apathy and die, or are we going to revolt? And they revolt. You can only lie to people so long. But unfortunately, there's always a new cycle of lying. And if he's done the horrible situation of doing this under orders without it ever happening to him, with no religious plan earlier than this, he goes around planning everybody. Oh, is he in wonderful shape with regard to religion? Oh, God is on his trail. You start to run this life incident, you start to run past lives, and the only thing he'll give you is a big dub in. Yes, he nailed Jesus to the cross. The only thing that tells you is a tremendous number of overt acts without any counter effort ahead of them. And they probably have an actual facsimile of having nailed somebody up to a cross sometime or other. This is just a general, loose, rough rule to follow. That anything that is wrong with the pre-clear has found wrong with, or has made wrong with, other human beings first. Anything you find wrong with a pre-clear, that pre-clear has made wrong with other human beings before he got in your hands? Anything. Now, this planet's lifespan for man is 70 years and 10. That has to do with gravity. Gravity adds in the counter effort. A mist body, which is after all like a plant or like any other growing thing, composed of cells and going ahead, has a tendency to last 70 years and 10. It's a ratio to the gravity. So here was this person who had suddenly come down with actual, complete paralysis in one limb. And what do we start auditing? Do we start auditing her getting paralyzed in one limb? No. We started audit overt acts to somebody who was paralyzed in one limb. Then we start to audit times when she wanted to use that limb destructively, times when she hurt somebody else's leg. And we just went on along this line, whammy, 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 whammy. She threw her crutch away in a matter of hours. I tell you about that little girl. All I did was just get overt acts about using that limb wrong. So she got to the point where she restrained that limb to the point where she paralyzed it. She restrained that limb till she paralyzed it. You'll find out this is a typical case. This is typical paralysis. If you really want to get this thing solved, instead of auditing and auditing and auditing and auditing, you go on back down the track and find out when she was shot in half, or when she had an electronic incident which gave it to her, or when and then she's got this good and solid, and she's just about to feel sorry for herself, and they did this. You say, all right, when were you on the monkey end of this thing? On what? Well, when did you grind this machine at people? Well, come on. Well, I never did. Wham! Here we go. And all of a sudden we find out that maybe she was the person who brought the people up to be ground at. And that was always the side she stayed on. She stayed on that side, and actual blasts at people that she was luring in there were kicking back at her a little bit, and they eventually paralyzed her. Well, I'm being accused of everything these days. And this is utterly impossible. It's utterly impossible. Fact one, so-called, occurred 1 million to 1,250,000 years ago, according to the average bop on the meter. And in Messed Universe time and on Messed Universe track, I wasn't on Messed Universe track 1 million or 1,250,000 years ago, or as far as that's concerned, 15,000 years ago. So I haven't been on your track, so don't get me mixed up with you.
There's a place in Florida where you've got friends. We'll help you transcend if you give us those ends. Party at the Church of Scientology. Don't call it a cult, you just don't understand. Write us a check